Bases dropped Friday, a rainy Friday in the Atlanta area. Soccer Down here is live to get you ready for the weekend of Atlanta United. Finally back in action. It feels like it's been a month. It really hasn't. It's just been a couple of weeks, but the schedule's been very strange in 2019. Getting back into a rhythm, at least for 6 weeks, with a busy Atlanta United schedule upcoming. They're in action Saturday night. Lots of action around the USL Championship, USL League One. The NWSL kicks off this weekend. It is a busy, busy weekend around the soccer universe in the United States. We'll get you set for it as best we can this morning. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you. How's it going, John?
I will say this. You know, being in the Central Time Zone, everything just comes an hour earlier.
Is that good or bad?
And being an hour earlier, man, it is. Wake-up calls are an hour earlier. You're groggier an hour earlier. You just kind of wish things were in the same time zone when you're in the Central Time Zone than the Eastern Time Zone. So it's just, everything comes a little earlier here.
I mean, we always argue about daylight savings time and should there be daylight savings time and all of that. I think there kind of have to be time zones. I don't think we can avoid that part.
Ask the folks in Indiana and Arizona about that.
Well, that's the dumb daylight savings time stuff. Like, that's a different conversation altogether. But, the time zone element, I don't know if there's any fix in that one, John.
Other than the Earth not rotating?
Yeah, there's kind of that thing that happens. Don't think that's going to get stopped. Atlanta United's Earth kind of stopped for a little while with a week off after the water polo match in Columbus that did count in the Major League Soccer standings. It was, and really didn't get any answers on how or why or what kind of process was going on in stopping that. And I know people still get bent out of shape saying it's an excuse, but look, as I will say, the weather did not affect Atlanta United's outcome in that Columbus game. They did enough damage to themselves by conceding in the second minute. The field was still unplayable, and the match should not have continued. It should have been handled better all the way around. I'm very glad that, maybe somebody at the MLS office was listening to the show on Wednesday, because I gave an impassioned plea that Major League Soccer and the Colorado Rapids should cancel the match with Seattle Sounders, since the Rockies and the Braves had postponed about an hour before. And, it's a blizzard warning.
Yeah.
Just a wild thought. So Seattle got stuck. They got stuck in Denver because I don't think they could get out in time before the blizzard hit. So we'll see how Seattle is ready.
Things to do in Denver when you're snowed in.
Not much. But we'll see how Seattle's ready for their match this weekend against Toronto. Atlanta heads to New England, and the injuries have been a bit of a storyline this week. Maybe a little bit too big of a storyline, and here's why I think that's the case. Franco Escobar, Pity Martinez, fully training. They are ready to go. They should be ready for 90 minutes. Maybe you have to think about a sub late for one of those two guys, or both. Okay? You can work with that. George Bello, training, not ready this week, hopefully next week, according to Frank DeBoer's comments yesterday. Kevin Kratz is out for potentially 4 more weeks. That's the longest-term one at the moment with a calf injury. I think the injuries have grabbed the headlines this week. I don't know, outside of the Bello injury, which has been ongoing, I don't know how big of a story they're actually going to be tomorrow night at Gillette Stadium.
No, but at the same time, when you're looking for answers, and there are some answers that may be more convenient to look at than others, I think that's probably why you sit there and you're looking for answers. This, whether it doesn't matter what it is, but if you see something in front of you that makes sense, that's what you're going to gravitate toward. It's weather, it's injuries, it's, insert idea here. So, I'm as you were talking about injuries, I was sitting here trying to scribble out a lineup, what I thought what a starting 11 may be for the weekend. But no, it's human nature to sit there and look for answers.
Bello first choice outside of Bello. That's it.
So But I mean, you're still always looking for answers if you don't have them yourself. And so I understand the idea of gravitating toward it.
But we're not talking about excuses from Columbus. I guess we're talking about preemptive excuses for New England, and that's not where this club should be. And the club hasn't had excuses. It's been just a big narrative in the conversation this week about the injuries and how much of an effect it's going to have, and it really looks like it's George Bello that is the biggest effect. Now, the Mikey Ambrose injury does take him out of being the replacement for Bello, so you're down to two questions. You're down to Breck Shea, or do you really go outside the box and go with a Gordon Wild, who has been training as an outside back? He's played as a left back in the USL Championship. You have that possibility. I don't think you go further outside the box unless you've been working on it this week with a Franco Escobar moving over to the left side and John Gallagher on the right side, who's been playing as a right back, who hasn't played with Atlanta United 2 in their last 2 games. You would think that's because of potential worry about Escobar and also being ready to provide cover for the first team, because that's the top priority. That's really it. That's your shuffling because of an injury. It's Breck Shea and or Gordon Wild and or getting really crazy and moving Escobar over, or Gallagher over, but I think it'd be Escobar who would slide over, and Gallagher at right back. That's about it. I think everything else is just a decision of what group you want to put out there to get a result against New England, a New England team that is going to make life difficult for you. You watch New England play, and especially you watch them in the last 2 weeks after Brad Friedel kind of questioned their professionalism in some ways, questioned their manhood in some ways.
I was going to say manhood,
after the loss against Minnesota with a 2-0 loss. Against Cincinnati. He said 5 or 6 players disappointed him with their effort in the second half, and you saw 6 changes in the next match, and it looked better. It didn't look like flowing, beautiful soccer. Did it look effective? Yep, it got a win against Minnesota. Did it look effective last week against Columbus? Yep, they got 1 goal off of a set piece. They really weren't able to create much. Now, you could say that Columbus just managed the game and rode out the waves of pressure from New England and didn't get hurt themselves, and they didn't. They only conceded 2 shots on goal. It's not like New England was creating a ton of chances through their pressure, but they just made the game disjointed. I would expect, with this being the first of 3 at home for the Revs, you're going to see a team that looks like it was shot out of a cannon to start this match. They're going to chase everything. What they do really well is they use the boundaries. They use the end line. They use the touch lines really well as extra defenders, and they want to get you going one direction, and they basically try to create a wall of pressure to force you up against the touch line, up against your own end line, and cause mistakes. They're very good at it. Now, what do they do with those mistakes? That's something they haven't been quite as good at as they've been in the past. But Carlos Gil is a player that if he gets on the ball in the final third, and he's recovered possession in the final third more than any other player in the league, he can hurt you with it. He's got 3 goals. He's got an assist. He's a player that when the ball turns over, Atlanta has to account for Gil, or New England can find some goals here, something they've struggled to do this season.
Yeah, and Gil has been the guy for me that in the Revs matches that I've watched, he has been that fulcrum that you're looking for in that 4-1 whatever formation that Brad Friedel has come up with. I guess a 4-1 amoeba or 4-1 whatever. And for me, Gil has been that guy that everyone seems to be looking to figure out, okay, we're advancing, we're successful so far in the final third, how do we close the deal? And he seems to be that early piece that sits there and is either the end decision or that one piece away from getting something hopefully in the back of the net for New England. So for me, I've always been circling Carlos Gil as my number one focus when it comes to success and or lack of success for New England this season.
Yeah, I mean, Gil's the only real technical player who's getting a lot of playing time. You have a lot of guys who are good athletes, work hard, but ball at their feet and have to make something happen with it, not quite as strong. That's not what New England is all about. They want to make the game frantic. They want to make it frenetic. They want to make it disjointed, and they want to try to take advantage of your mistakes as opposed to creating something to hurt you. Frank DeBoer yesterday at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, I thought nailed it. He said they'll be on top of us, and we're prepared for that. Always start first with the hunger to win duels, to win games, and afterwards the quality can be decisive. They will give us a hard time. We know that. And I thought this one was interesting, and this actually comes into play in a big way. You have to be prepared for those kind of small fouls, but still continue what we are good at. One time you will break through. They make fouls because you are in a good position. You can also be proud of that. And hopefully the referee sometimes helps you in that and protects you in that by showing cards, because that's also very important when the referee sees every time small fouls. 5 small fouls for me is also a yellow card. They have to recognize that. That way they can also help the offensive team. The reason that Frank DeBoer is bringing up fouls, one, I love that he's bringing this into the conversation straight away, because Alex Chilowitz, your center referee here, he hears these things. Referees talk. They read the internet. They read the quote sheets. They know what's coming into this match. And last year, under Brad Friedel, New England had the second most cards in the league, led the league in fouls per game. So far this season, through 5 matches, they're 5th in cards and 4th in fouls per game. They break play up. They're also very aggressive, and it's kind of the double whammy for the Revolution in terms of fouls and giving up set pieces. They're very aggressive, so they're going to commit fouls that way sometimes, not trying to, not intentionally. It's just they're aggressive. 2, when they do lose containment, when the opposition does break their press, they commit fouls to break up the play. Now, what was interesting about New England last year was that they had all these cards, they had all these fouls, they had a lot of suspensions, all that stuff added up. They didn't give up a ton of chances through the run of play, but they gave up so many set pieces that they got hurt on that side of it. Now, Atlanta on set pieces hasn't been great so far. Ezequiel Barco's delivery on set pieces, I think, has been very good this year, and I would expect that to continue here. And you're going to have to look to take advantage. That's how Columbus broke through against New England last week. But I love that DeBoer drops that into the conversation about, look, this team fouls you when you're in good positions. They break up plays, and referees have to protect attacking teams. When a player commits multiple fouls in succession, you have to see yellow cards. Michael Mancian, he's missing this one because of yellow cards. I saw 2 last week, got a red card. And after the first foul, I was watching the game back last night, you could hear Brad Friedel on the bench say, "Oh, that's just football. That's just football." Came in from behind and kicked him in the side of the knee. It's not just football. That's the way New England plays. They want to intimidate you. They also want to break up play when you do beat them. I hope that Alex Chilowitz is listening to what Frank DeBoer said, because DeBoer is spot on with those comments.
And I like the way that you pieced that together with New England and phrased it that way, because once again, in the back matches that I've watched against the Revs, they're all about breaking your momentum and stopping your work forward. It's a foul here, you break it up, you slow down their momentum, and the opposition can't get anything in the run of play. It's always having to do things in fits and starts. And so knowing that pedigree coming in, that's something that Atlanta United is going to have to look at. But yeah, set pieces, I think, are going to be a big element in all of this. So, to your point, it's just for the fans, just keep an eye on how they break things down and how they make sure that nothing gets completely out of control and slows everything down to their own benefit, and have to only defend in pieces at a time instead of in long runs.
Well, I mean, here's the other reason why Frank DeBoer makes those comments. Alex Chilowitz has been in the middle for 6 games in his career. Last year, he was primarily a VAR. You'll remember him from being on the VAR duties for the Atlanta-Seattle match. The Chris McCann takedown by Kim Keehee was a big talking point coming out of that one. How was that missed? And I think it actually did lead to some changes in the way the assistant VAR gets involved, and there was a lot of talk coming out of that. But Chilowitz is a guy who has refereed 2 matches in 2019. He had the Chicago Fire hosting New York Red Bulls on the 30th, 2 weeks ago. 1 yellow card in that match issued to Chicago. He had Columbus hosting FC Dallas on the 16th. 2 yellow cards issued in that match, 1 to each team. 2018, he had 1 match in 2018 in the middle on St. Patrick's Day. Minnesota hosting Chicago. 3 yellow cards issued in that one. 2 to Chicago, 1 to Minnesota. He had 3 matches in 2017. He did show a red to FC Dallas in their 4-1 loss at Minnesota. But in his last 3 games, and in his 2 games this year, which is probably the more important thing, 3 yellow cards in 180 minutes of play. Frank DeBoer mentioning that and mentioning that the referee has to be on top of this. Very, very intentional and a very savvy play.
Give him something to think about coming into a match like that with his past history of pulling something out of a pocket. No, completely and totally get that. Good play by Frank through the media.
Now, the flip side is, okay, you have a referee who handled a Chicago-New York match, and we know Red Bulls aren't pressing maybe quite as much as they did last year. They still press, and they were on the road in Chicago, and you only had 1 yellow card in that match. You didn't have a lot of fouls called. So Atlanta United has to be ready for a situation where you're not having many fouls called. You know, in that game, Alex Moyle had 4 fouls, no yellow cards. New York committed 10 fouls in total. That's very low for them. Very, very low for the Red Bulls. You have New England, who I don't think New England is as organized of a press as the Red Bulls show you and have showed you in their history. New England is a much more frenetic press. It is throw as many bodies at the ball as possible and make the other team freak out. And if you foul somebody along the way, so be it. Especially if you're doing it when they're in their defensive half and you're doing it early on in the build-up. We'll see how Alex Chilowitz handles this. But, yeah, that was very intentional. Also very intentional, some of the other comments that the players made. Leandro Gonzalez-Perez said, I know they're very physical. They're so intense. Personally, I like that because we can find more spaces than against normal teams when they sit back. So I like that. I know we have to be more careful than normal because when they push forward all the time, if they recover the ball in our side of the field, they can be more dangerous. We have to pay more attention. When we pass the ball, we have to make quality passes and try to find spaces to attack the defense and to try to score. LGP's right. When you have a team that presses in this way and is not as organized as the Red Bulls are in their press, they leave space. They leave gaps. Columbus wasn't quite precise enough last week. They should have done better than they did against New England. They had opportunities where you beat that first line of pressure, you beat that midfield pressure, and you have a back line that's just completely stretched. Now, New England in this match is going to have a back line that is completely piecemeal because Edgar Castillo is an injury doubt with a calf, could be back, might not be back till next week. Michael Mancian out on red cards. Antonio De La Mea trained on Thursday. They're waiting to see how his body responds to it. He's had a knee injury. Andrew Farrell has played 2 matches in his return from an eye injury. He missed most of preseason, but he's played 90 minutes in both of his matches. The guy's a warrior. He might have to move into the middle. You might have to move some pieces around. You might even have to consider moving a guy like Wilfred Zahibo from a midfield position into the back line, depending on what's going to be your best bet. So that pressing style, you're not going to see them change that. But I think you're going to see more gaps when you beat that first line of pressure. LGP's dead on. If you do that, you're going to have more space than you had against DC, who sat back. You're going to have more space than you did against Cincinnati, who sat back. You're going to have more space than you did against Philadelphia, who sat back. You're going to have more space than you did against Columbus as that match went on because they had a 2-0 lead. They sat back. You're going to have opportunities, and you have to take them. This is a game that I think can really line up pretty nicely for Atlanta if they're careful with the ball, if they beat that first line of pressure, and if they punish New England for committing numbers forward.
And, the point that you made about gaps, because if you have folks playing in quote-unquote unfamiliar positions, there's always going to be either an undercommitting or an overcommitting when it comes to a ball in your area. So keep an eye on that as well, because you're going to have players who may be quote-unquote out of position, and there's going to be that opportunity where they're in between thoughts. And that's the last place that you want to be as a defender, but the first place you want to see them when you're working things offensively against a team like this. And taking advantage of those opportunities, being precise in your passes, finishing. That to me is also, it's finish the deal. They give you something, you got to punish them and finish what you're seeing in front of you to get this offense back on track and get it to where a lot of the fan base is looking for it to be and where it hasn't been so far this season.
We'll talk more Atlanta and New England as we go today. Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game joins us at 10 o'clock. Doug Robertson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution joins us at 10:30. But up next, we're going to get you set for the week of fantasy MLS with our update from the commissioner, Jason Wright, the Jason Wright Agency. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 12th edition. Getting you set for a busy weekend around the game in the United States and Canada. Let's talk fantasy, though. Jason Wright Agency sponsors our fantasy league. You can still get involved. Go to Jason Wright, AGEN on Twitter, or the Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. Follow the instructions, get your code, and get into the league to talk all of the trash, because there's lots of trash being talked. A lot of it from the commissioner himself, but it's there. Top points for the previous week, week 6. Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma. Still one of the greatest team names of all time. 110 points. That was 4th in the Atlanta United official league, 19th in all of Major League Soccer fantasy. Pretty good job, Oxford comma. Goldmine with 94 points. Stay Puffed Marshmallow Men. Really pushing the Oxford comma is a good name. 93 points. In the Open League, the Oxford comma jumps up 2 spots to take first place. The commissioner thinks that Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma is managed by a female. I don't know. I have no idea. The commissioner says, I think she's really trying to get promoted this season. And yes, I think the manager is a she, and she's killing it. I don't know. Maybe the commissioner has some inside information. I'm not sure.
The commissioner always has inside information.
Typically they do, and maybe our commissioner has that as well. Number 2 in the Open League, Joseph better than CR7, falling out of the number 1 spot. And then number 3, FC Apogee Lethal Weapon, moves back into 3rd. Apogee. Okay, cool. Apogee, whatever. It's all the same. They're 3rd. They're not in 1st, so they don't get pronounced correctly. How about that? Is that fair?
There you go.
They get into 1st, they'll get pronounced correctly. Yeah, you got to earn it. Pro Rel League standings, 1st to 3rd. They all have 5-0-1 records. Port City FC finally takes a loss. They're in 3rd. Joseph better than CR7 in 2nd. Soccer Specific Fantasy Team in 1st. Little aside from the commissioner. So last week, there was some of that trash talk that we mentioned to dog for him.
Benson.
Yeah. The commission was kind of ruthless in that. So this is straight from the commissioner's email update. Though he didn't get a win this past week, the manager may have been holding back so he could make a statement against the commissioner's team this week, jumping out to an early lead. Gamesmanship.
Of course. Much like Frank DeBoer putting things in Alex Chilowitz's brain.
Mm-hmm. Other matchups to watch this week in the Pro Rel leagues in the Pro Rel League: Darren Eel's Dream Team versus Oxford Comma, Cam Do Attitude versus Don't Var Me Bro. That's the winner. That's the winner. Sorry, Oxford Comma. Sorry, everybody else. Don't Var Me Bro is the greatest
Don't Var Me Bro
team name. Best. Can't be topped. Bonus points for Don't Var Me Bro. C-Train and Port City FC is your other big matchup to watch. Let's run through the preview of MLS this weekend and any potential fantasy updates or news you might need to know. Tonight, Chicago hosting Vancouver in front of probably a friends and family crowd at SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview.
Oh.
I like Chicago Fire players in this one. I'm not sure who exactly. Katai, Nikolic are probably the two that I'm jumping on. Although if you're feeling really squirrely about Gaetan, could happen. Vancouver hasn't really been much of anything on the road, so nope. Chicago players there could be a good call. Montreal hosting Columbus is your 1:00 game tomorrow. Montreal, iffy on Nacho Piatti. I have not seen an update on his availability here. He's missed the last couple. They started a lot of young kids in the Tuesday game against DC. Got a scoreless draw. Wasn't pretty, but they got the result. Safir Taider's always one that I think puts up points. He's pretty consistent. On the Columbus side, I don't know. It's the home opener for Montreal. I would probably avoid Columbus players in this one. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I just when I have this kind of an I just avoid the game altogether. Although Taider for me has been the one that has always stuck out as the guy to grab because without Piatti they have to have some place to go, and for me it's always been Taider.
Yeah, I kind of like that play. Houston and San Jose is next, 3:00 Eastern time kick. It's on Univision Deportes. San Jose 1-4. They did get the big win over Portland at home last week. Houston 3-0-1, and it looks like they're getting Juan David Cabezas back. He's ready to go, according to Wilmer Cabrera. They've been good without him. I think they're better with him. Take your pick. Memo Rodriguez, Albert Ellis, Mauro Manotas.
Ellis.
Memo's probably your most cost-effective one. So keep that in mind as you're looking for a budget play. Memo Rodriguez against San Jose is a very good idea. I think Houston defenders could be a very good idea in that one, too. San Jose really hasn't scored a whole lot this season.
So you're telling me not to play Vega?
No, that would be absolutely foolish. Like, why would you ever do that?
Because he pulled a 14 last week?
Yeah, against Portland. What did he pull in the other games, John? Because that's, one game versus 4. Let's just think here. He's conceded 14 goals in 4 losses. Not touching it.
I'm trying to think. I think he pulled a 2 the week before.
Good. That's not much. Seattle hosting Toronto is your 4:00 game. It's the big game of the weekend. top team in the East, top team in the West, two teams that are undefeated. Does that continue? I'm assuming Seattle actually got out of Denver and avoided the blizzard. So
they're not playing it remotely.
They might have to play it on FIFA. I would assume that they were able to take advantage of the hotel's, fitness center and at least try to stay somewhat sharp.
Could you imagine the walkthrough in the parking lot?
Parking lot? It was a blizzard.
That's what I'm saying. Could you imagine the walkthrough in the parking lot?
Walkthrough in the dining room. It's a blizzard. I'm not walking through anything in a blizzard. I'm saying clear out the dining room. Clear out the conference room.
We need to move the tables and have a walkthrough. Maybe they play a little futsal.
Do it all the freaking time. They do their little walkthroughs and stuff in the conference room. Walk through. Do it in the dining room or something. Anyway, Seattle's hosting Toronto, and this is a tough one. The big thing about Toronto, and this is an update from this morning, Drew Moore and Auro did not train yesterday for Toronto. Drew Moore basically is not going to play. Greg Vanney all but said that. Auro, he wasn't quite as strong in his words, but it doesn't look good. That would tip the tables even more towards Seattle outside of the home field advantage here. So if you're feeling like Seattle can exploit Toronto's injured back line, you might want to get aggressive with Seattle players. Although Alejandro Pozuelo is a pretty bonkers kind of number 10, so this could be just fireworks all the way around.
That's what I'm banking on.
Yeah, I think attackers in this, if you take a defender from either one of these teams, you might pay for it. Minnesota hosting. Oh, go ahead. You got anything else?
I was just going to say I've got Rodriguez and Pozuelo to cancel each other out.
Could be. Minnesota hosting NYCFC. It's the opener at Allianz Field. Liam Gallagher's not singing Wonderwall unless they've got a big surprise. They tried. He might do it sometime this season, but not happening for this one. Their tifo did get leaked by the local paper. That's kind of bad.
Boo.
I don't know if people just aren't paying attention or know how to handle these things. But anyway, and it's still up there, by the way. The picture's still posted, which is kind of shocking. But the Loons get an NYC squad that comes in with Alexandru Matricia dealing with a rib injury, hasn't trained much this week. Bear, not 90 minutes fit yet. Minnesota defensive players I like in this one, and I like a Darwin Quintero explosion in this one as well. You got a lot of attacking options this week so far. New England, Atlanta, we'll get more into it. It could be a wild, frantic game that there's not a lot of a flow to it. I don't know if that really plays well in terms of fantasy, so you might want to keep that in mind. 8 o'clock, FC Dallas hosting Portland. The Timbers are just reeling. Dallas has been pretty good at home. They've been somewhat inconsistent, but you might be able to find a nice budget play out of Dallas. It's just sometimes hard with so many young guys playing that you don't exactly know who's going to be lined up where and who's going to be the focal point. Palmacall, I think, is your easiest call out of the Dallas squad. You might want to look at Dallas defenders, too. It's not like Portland's been scoring a whole lot of goals either. Real Salt Lake and Orlando is your 9 o'clock match. RSL's got their backs against the wall. I expect them to come out with a good performance here. I like an Albert Rusnak in this one to really drive this team forward. Orlando has been getting some results. They have more quality than I think they've ever had, but they're still pretty disjointed, especially defensively. So RSL to score some goals, I like it. Orlando scoring some goals, it's very possible. So if you're feeling squirrely and you want to jump on Nani or Chris Mueller, that wouldn't be a bad pick. Colorado hosting DC United in the 9 o'clock game. I don't expect many goals in this one. DC's been reeling a bit. They haven't scored in a couple now. Defensively, they've been very good all season. Colorado doesn't produce a ton. They're at home. I think you might want to look at defenders and goalkeepers in it. You might want to pick. Do you think that Tim Howard could get a clean sheet against DC? Do you think that Wayne Rooney comes back and he's rested and he punishes Howard? Do you think Bill Hamid gets his 5th clean sheet of the season? There's a few to think about in that one. LA Galaxy Philadelphia is one of the nightcaps. Galaxy get Giancarlo Gonzalez, the center back from Bologna from the Costa Rican national team. Not expecting him to jump straight into the lineup, but that'll give them a boost. Philadelphia, I still don't know quite how to feel about them. I think the Galaxy can score some goals in this one. So if you like Mr. Ibrahimovic, I think he'd be a good play here.
I mean, because I have up top, I have Elise, and I have the other LA team represented just because of him being on one particular individual being on an MVP run. But I did have Seattle Defenders. I have Briant. Let's see. Who else do I have?
Two more before you make your final decisions. There's two more, and LAFC is one of them. They're hosting Cincinnati. Carlos Vela, obviously a big play in this one. Diego Rossi, I think, would be another one to consider. I think you could consider Walker Zimmerman as well, because I'm not seeing Cincinnati do a whole lot here. I think LAFC is flying pretty high, and they'll continue to do that. The Sunday match, 7 o'clock, is Sporting and Red Bulls. How much does Peter Vermes rotate his squad? He played a lot of regulars last night as they fell to Monterrey, and they're knocked out of the CONCACAF Champions League. Red Bulls have lost 3 straight. I haven't seen much to think that that's about to change for the Red Bulls. Sporting, I just don't know who they're going to field in this one. So that one to me is just stay away. Don't even think about it. Think about your late night games on Saturday night, because those are the ones where you have some interesting decisions to make with Vela, with Ibrahimovic, with guessing on defenders from the Galaxy and LAFC because they should win these games. It's an interesting decision with your late night ones on Saturday.
Okay, so here's what I'm looking at: Seattle Defenders, Leerdam and Marshall, Briant, who I already have in the system, Ziegler for Dallas going up against Portland, Pamacol, Pozuelo, Rodriguez, and I went with Lucia Costa because I thought something would happen early, and he didn't. And then Rossi and Elise up top, and starting keeper Gazan with Vega in the hole.
Yeah. Well, Briant, you got a clean sheet earlier, and you can't take him out now, so sometimes those double weeks can work out for you. It looks like it will in that case. You need Acosta to have a night in Colorado, which is possible. I mean, Colorado's not exactly good. There's so many different ways here. Like, this is a tough week because I think there's a lot of different games that I think could be high scoring. So you have some tough decisions on your attacking players. I don't think the decisions defensively are quite as difficult. There's a few obvious ones, at least teams to choose from, and some to just completely avoid. So I'm interested to see how the fantasy week goes this week, and I want to see how Don't Var Me Bro does, because they're my favorite.
Don't Var Me Bro.
They're my new favorite team, so we'll see how they do. Let's take a break here. We'll get into some of your questions and comments on the Twitters right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus, and Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 12th edition. Getting into the Twitters with some of your questions and comments. Let's start with MRB. John, I want to get your thoughts on this. So I've been talking all week about how it's not a must-win game for Atlanta United, but they do need to look better, and it's as close to a must-win as you can have in April. Like, it's technically not must-win because you have plenty of matches left, but it's beyond need to win because of what you have coming up. You got to get some positive momentum going. Yes. MRB says, thought experiment. What's the worst performance that you could see out of Atlanta United that would leave you optimistic?
The least?
The worst performance you could see.
Yeah, the worst performance you could see that would keep me optimistic. Probably something along the lines of squandering a lead late and only getting 1 point out of the deal.
Nah, see, I'm not feeling optimistic about that at all. A 1-0 win on your only shot of the game, and it's just an ugly, nasty match, but you win even against the run of play, I'll take it. Take it in a heartbeat. 3 points is 3 points at this stage. I don't care how they come. So, and I think an MRB mentioned that I've said that they need to look better. I'm even past that, to be honest. I think they need to win. They need a result here. If you get a draw and you play well, all right, I can take some positives out of that. If you get a draw and play poorly, nope. If you get a win and play poorly, yep, I'll take it. And I'll run from Foxborough to the airport. I will be fine. If you play well and lose, you're kind of grasping at straws at this point, although I'll take that. And MRB follows up with, what's the key thing you'd look for when determining a good performance? Is it chances? Is it shots? Is it goals? Is it expected goals? MRB says that he'll be watching for how many shots Atlanta United takes versus how many the Revs take. I'm not really defining it by that, especially in this game, because this is such a weird one with the way that New England plays. I think, honestly, what I'm looking for here is how much Atlanta United can play in New England's half. Because it's something that the Revolution do really well of making you play in your own half. They just don't allow you to string many passes together in the final third and in the attacking half. If Atlanta's able to do that, they'll be fine, and they'll play well here because I think they'll create enough chances to finish them off and get the win. If the game's primarily played in their defensive half and you're seeing mistakes in possession from Atlanta, then it's going to be a bad night. So it's hard to quantify with numbers anyway. I'm generally looking for, and it is a bit of a feel thing, but in this one, that's it for me, is how much can Atlanta break pressure and get into New England's half and play over there. And I think that's where a guy like Barco is going to be key, knowing when you do break that pressure and get into their half, when to keep the foot on the gas and go because things are disjointed, and when to hold it up and allow you to build up some numbers and take some pressure off of your back line by possessing in the other team's half. You're going to have to do that at times. And I know that seems to get people bent out of shape about possession side to side, and we all have flashbacks to Louis van Gaal and his side to side very rigid possession, and a lot of people want to cite that about Atlanta United because of the obvious links between De Boer and Van Gaal. at times you need it. And this is the kind of game where you especially need it. If you're able to get into New England's half and just take the pressure off and make them have to sit and defend on their heels a little bit and give your back line a chance to breathe, you're going to want to do that from time to time here. Barco making those decisions is going to be very, very important. Katie Weaver with a question, John. Talking about CONCACAF Champions League, macro level, MLS not good enough. Rayados are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Micro level, Johnny Russell's always a threat. Gianluca Busio looked overwhelmed. The offense had some flashes of creativity. The defense was what else did we learn from Sporting and Rayados in the semifinals of the Champions League?
No, I mean, I think her macro's right on, is that MLS needs to look at how they're addressing their preseason and how they're addressing roster construction if they want to compete in this particular tournament. Because what's the quote that we always hung on to with Rayados is that they're too deep at every position and they don't have the same spending constraints that MLS does when it comes to bringing in talent. And I think that you have to look at starting things even earlier when it comes to training camps and getting ready for this competition, because Atlanta United, I think MLS teams only got an extra week basically to come online. And for me, it's the calendar, it's your salary structure and how you bring in talent. And I don't know if those last two are pretty much one and the same thing, but I'm treating them separately. One monetarily, and then two bringing in the talent. And I mean, for me, at 30,000 feet, those are the first three things that pop into my head. It's all right. You want to compete in this competition. If the team is the same, let them start a little earlier. If the team is different, let them start a little earlier. And if they're bringing in more folks, you've got to bring in more folks to compete against this. I mean, because you're seeing Liga MX probably, I mean, they're going to be there at the end once again, both sides. So for me, it's look at the talent pool. How do you address it? How do you make yourselves deeper? And how do you address things financially? And how do you address things physically? That for me is the biggest part of the whole thing. And for me, when it comes to looking at somebody like Gianluca Busio, he's a teenager. It's a chance to have him learn. What does he take from this particular learning experience, which is pretty much being thrown into the fire pretty well? But I mean, teenager, first chance out there, let him learn. What does he learn from this going forward? Johnny Russell, yeah, we knew he was a beast. All you have to do is ask Jared about Johnny Russell.
I think I'm honestly past the point of the excuses for young American players in these types of games. Yeah, he's a teenager. So what? Other countries have teenagers playing in the first division and getting minutes in these types of games, and they don't look as overwhelmed. That's something that has to change. Now, how does that change? I don't know. Is it doing what Mexico does with a U20 league and having those games in the big stadiums before or after your Liga MX games? Maybe. Something. Because it happens too often and it always gets brought up and nothing's ever done to change it from the American perspective. Busio's a very good player, but he's played in front of big crowds. He played in front of a big crowd, had a big goal against FC Cincinnati. He was at home. Yes, he's going up against a talent level that is different, but how different is it? Not enough for him to look as overwhelmed. Young players have to be better prepared for this stuff. And big picture, also, keep in mind that Monterrey is not your typical Liga MX team, the way they're spending. Tigres is not your typical. Outside of the top four in Liga MX, what Atlanta's spending is on par with a lot of Liga MX. What LAFC, what your top MLS teams are spending is on par with the rest of Liga MX, the next level. It's this group that is pulling away and spending in Mexico that's throwing everything out of whack. And MLS right now can't compete. It's something they're going to have to think about if they want to win this tournament, because I don't think Monterrey, Tigres, Club America are going to spend less. I think they're only going to continue to spend more if the revenues continue to grow. MLS revenues are growing. They are. I mean, the numbers are there to back it up. You need to spend more. And I think if you spend more, then you'll break through on some of these things that people are pointing at as issues in terms of TV ratings and attendance and such. So there's work to be done. MLS has to put in the work now, or we're just going to keep doing this year after year. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's get you set for our NWSL coverage with the season starting tomorrow. We'll talk about that right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment, hour number 1. Getting ready for a busy weekend of soccer around the United States. One element of that is the National Women's Soccer League. The NWSL kicks off with 2 matches tomorrow. You can watch them on Yahoo Sports, and hey, the schedule page actually has a Yahoo Sports logo on it now, so that's good. Not a link, but it's there. At least you know where to go. Washington Spirit hosting Sky Blue FC. North Carolina Courage, your defending champs, hosting Chicago Red Stars, both at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. It's been a weird week for the NWSL. There's a couple different folks who have been in the front office for the league who are leaving this week. I'm going to talk to Jonathan Tannenwald about that. Philly Inquirer writer, covers the Union, covers women's soccer in a very, very strong way. We'll have our Women's Soccer Weekly coming out later this afternoon as we preview the NWSL with Jonathan. I want to get his take on that because he's been very vocal on social media, sharing everything going on around the NWSL this week. It's a weird week because there's a lot of things that are positive with the NWSL. I think Tony Novo leaving Sky Blue, whether he was pushed out or he left on his own accord, and Sky Blue turning the page, that's a good thing. Just, coming into a new season with a World Cup in a few months, that's a good thing. There's a lot of storylines around the league. There's going to be a lot of players who get opportunities this year because of the World Cup. That's a great thing. But there's also some questions. So it kind of has a weird feel as we get close to kickoff for year 7, which makes the NWSL the longest-running women's soccer professional league in the United States. Even if you take the WUSA and the WPS and you combine their lifespans, it's not as long as the NWSL, and that's a big deal. But there are questions going into 2019. What are some of your big questions, John, as we get ready for the start of the season?
Well, I know that you had Mitchell Northam on to talk about the North Carolina Courage earlier in the week, And for me is how much of a sprint do the Courage treat this, knowing that they're going to be losing players for Women's World Cup? I mean, do you try to get as big an advantage as possible and try to put the pedal down to get as, far out in front of everybody, knowing the losses that you're going to have as a side for that particular time frame? I want to see the North Carolina Chicago match. I want to see how good Chicago is. I want to see who the challengers are going to be for the Courage, considering the Courage basically just ran away and hid last year with Tony Novo out at Sky Blue. We've referred to Sky Blue as basically half a franchise, and I want to see how Tony Novo leaving and having at least a base of operations now. I want to see if morale is different when it comes to Sky Blue and how things may or may not change on the balance sheet and the score sheet. When it comes to Utah, do we continue to see the growth that we see there? So for me, it's who's challenging North Carolina. I guess for me, it's the top and the bottom. Who's going to challenge North Carolina this year? How does North Carolina treat the sprint going to the Women's World Cup? And how does Sky Blue respond to the things that have finally happened with Tony? So I guess for me, it's the top and the bottom are where my questions are.
I'm looking at the middle, too. I want to see Orlando and Houston, kind of put things together in a stronger way. They're both owned by MLS clubs, and they're not Utah, and they're not Portland, and it just isn't showing that they have that backing. I'd like to see those two teams progress a little bit, both on and off the field. A couple bits of news before we head to break. Heather O'Reilly, longtime U.S. women's national team midfielder, has played all over the planet. She announced just a little bit ago on social media that this will be her last season as a professional player. She's also going to be involved in the FIFA Women's World Cup work with Fox as a studio analyst, and she's an excellent analyst. So there will be plenty for Heather O'Reilly to do once her playing days are done, but she's not done trying to win trophies with the North Carolina Courage just yet. Another good bit of news out of the Pacific Northwest is Reign FC. Remember, it's the former Seattle Reign. They've dropped Seattle because they're playing in Tacoma. They've added Boeing as a sponsor. Now, they get support from Zulily as part of their partnership with the Seattle Sounders, but they're going to have Boeing underneath the numbers on the back of the kits. That's a pretty big-time partner to be added on the eve of the season. Good things happening in the league as well, and I don't want it to feel like it's all doom and gloom around the NWSL. I just think there's more questions than you'd like to have going into a season. Hopefully they get answered, and hopefully they get answered heading in the right direction, because it's a big year and a big opportunity ahead for the NWSL. We'll have more on the Women's Soccer Weekly podcast later today with Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer. But up next, we have Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game. Get deeper into Atlanta and New England from Gillette Stadium on Saturday night. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, April 12th. Atlanta United headed up to New England to face the New England Revolution. Brad Friedel has been demanding effort and work rate, and he's getting it out of the last 2 matches. Is he going to get it tomorrow night? What do you think, Mike Conti?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I always kind of cringe at a team where the manager has to demand work rate and effort. That's not a hallmark of a good team. If you need to be pushed by your coach to give more effort. They played okay against Columbus. They lost 1-0. New England, like I said on Wednesday, is a team that's just really weird to me. They're difficult to scout because they've played a lot of different players. Mancian will be out, so it leads to some questions on their back line. I did think it was interesting. I guess Brad Guzan said earlier this week that they were expecting a very physical match, that New England was a team last year that did some things from a chippiness standpoint that kind of got Atlanta United a little uncomfortable. I don't really remember that so much. I haven't really gone back and watched those 2 matches. But
not so much Atlanta specifically, but I mean they were among the league leaders in cards and fouls, and just they break play up. I don't know if I'd go chippy or like trying to start stuff. I think it's more of, okay, if my pressure doesn't work, I'm going to foul you, and I'm going to make sure that we stop the play here. And sometimes it's just sloppy play.
Right,
because you're overly aggressive. It's a weird dynamic. It's kind of the Red Bulls to me on steroids in that regard, where you break the pressure, you're going to commit a foul, and you're going to do that very smartly. And I think that's why Frank DeBoer talked about the referee and talked about cards and showing cards, because you have a referee in Chilowitz who hasn't done a lot of games at this level, and if he lets a lot of stuff go, I think Brad's right in that this could get chippy if there's a lot of fouls committed and no punishment.
Yeah, sure enough, New England is second in MLS in fouls coming into the weekend. Alex Chilowitz, you're right. We've seen him in VAR a couple times. I don't remember him ever being a center ref for an Atlanta United match.
He hasn't.
So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be one thing that I think will be a storyline tomorrow, and it's something that if Atlanta United allows it to frustrate them, we could be in for another long night. Because one of the things that we've seen a lot this year is that the connections have been slow to develop and sometimes haven't even been there in the final third. And if New England is going to be fouling a lot to break up those connections, that could get players on Atlanta United very, very frustrated. So we'll see what it leads to. I mean, what you would hope is that it could produce some set pieces where then Pitti could demonstrate his skill a little bit, Barco could demonstrate his skill. But those fouls have got to come in dangerous areas. And that means Atlanta United has got to do as good a job as they've done in their last 2 league matches of creating chances, getting the ball into the final third, and then doing something with it.
So in New England's 4-1 whatever, we're looking at Carlos Gil, obviously, as a focal point. At least, I have in the first hour of the show. Is there anybody else on the Mike Conti whiteboard that you're looking at to sit there and say, okay, if X dude is locked in for the Revs, then it could be a long day? Who else do you have spot shadowed on your board?
Yeah, well, one of them is Cody Cropper, and it's been a very weird situation with the goalkeeping in New England where Matt Turner, if I remember correctly, guys, he had one of those real, standing on his head performances up in Foxborough last May when Atlanta United and New England played to that 1-1 draw. That's where Atlanta United got hit with a very soft penalty late. And I remember after that match, all the MLS soccer people were just swooning over Matt Turner as being the next great American goalkeeper. 22 years old. He's our next men's national team keeper. Now he's on the bench. And can't even play for Brad Friedel anymore. Brad Knighton started 4 matches. They benched him. Cropper has been their keeper for the last 2. But, just because we have seen it in New England before where a goalkeeper can kind of take a game over, if Cropper is the flavor of the day and he has a good performance, that could be bad news for Atlanta United. No one on New England, by the way, has a save percentage better than 50% right now. So Cropper would be one. But Bunbury would be another. Just because we've seen him score against Atlanta United. He has yet to score a goal this year. He's one of the very few players on New England that has started all 6 of their matches. In fact, it's just Bunbury, Brandon Bye, and Carlos Heel. I think those are the 3. That's it, that have started all 6 of their matches to this point. So Bunbury is someone, just from the standpoint of having given Atlanta United some problems before, he would stand out to me. But we talked about this on Wednesday, John, when you were out. Carlos Heel, to me, is the guy. 3 goals in 6 matches. He's taken 15 shots, so he's just outside the top 10 in the league in shots taken. New England does take a lot of shots as a club. They're tied for 5th in MLS, so they're going to make Atlanta United work for it. But to me, Heel is the guy that Atlanta United needs to shut down. If you can shut him down, then I think you've got a really good chance to get a result out of this, because I don't see really too many other guys on this New England Revolution side that really scare you with their ability to create chances and score goals.
So we see managers and coaches in all sports come in and want to put their stamp on the team. And especially in a situation like this one where Jay Heaps had been in New England for a long time prior to Brad Friedel. But there's a couple things that are really weird. I want to get your take just on where you think Brad Friedel is at this stage, early in year 2. You look back at the team in 2017, and you could probably say that their most important player in terms of winning them matches and winning them points was Lee Win. He got iced out really quickly, and they ended up trading him to LAFC right before the deadline last spring. Last year, an American Soccer Analysis has tried to create, the wins above replacement stat. They're trying to create the soccer version of it, points above replacement. Right. And according to that, your 2 most valuable players last season for New England were Matt Turner and Diego Fagundes. Turner hasn't seen the field. Fagundes has 2 starts. It's really strange the way that Friedel's trying to make this team his. And honestly, you look at the results at home, in 2014 to 2017, and not all those were great years for New England, they were averaging just over 2 points per game at home, 41, 12, and 15. Under Friedel, they're 9, 6, and 5 at home in their last 20. It's 1.6 points per game.
But 1-2-0 this year at home, just on that short sample size.
Sure, but he's only won since the early run last year that kind of ended with the Atlanta match. Mm-hmm. He's got 4 wins since beginning of June last year. It kind of feels like it's sliding the other direction. What do you think about Friedel and what he's doing in New England at this stage? How much pressure's on him?
Well, he's 11, 17, and 12. That's his record to this point. Remember, this is his first gig managing at any level, I think, correct?
He had the U19 national team, which is kind of an in-between group. They don't play for World Cups or anything like that, so it's kind of a stepping stone team. It's usually not. It's not like the U17s, graduate to the U18s, then the U19s. It's kind of U17s and U20s. He had an in-between group for, I think, a year with U.S. Soccer, and they played a few matches, and that's about it.
Well, a couple things stand out to me about Friedel, and let's go back to what you mentioned at the beginning of this segment. Friedel is not obviously connecting with his players, and that, I think, is a real indictment on him as a manager. When you're going out publicly and demanding more effort and more work rate and saying that We aren't playing with enough effort, with enough fire. He's been he and his club have both kind of been ridiculed for that in the national soccer press, and I think rightfully so. But that tells you that he's not connecting with his team. If he has to resort to using the media to be his messenger for something like that. The other thing that really stands out to me, I'll go back to the goalkeeping situation. Brad Friedel was a 16-year goalkeeper in the Premier League, U.S. men's national team goalkeeper. I mean, this guy's been a goalkeeper in a World Cup. So one is to believe that if there's one position that he should be expert on as far as developing players, it would be goalkeeping, right? And I know he has Ruben Garcia as his goalkeepers coach. I mean, when you're the manager of a team, it's hard to focus solely on goalkeeping. But Friedel himself, after the Atlanta match last May, was just lauding Matt Turner as this next big thing and how he was going to be a superstar. And now, you almost wonder, and I'm not in that dressing room, so I don't know if I would necessarily call it mind games. But when you're playing musical goalkeepers like this, and Turner hasn't even gotten a game yet, it just really kind of makes you wonder what's going on there. And if this is kind of a microcosm with Friedel's relationship with the rest of the team, where he's just not connecting with individuals right now. And as a result, I mean, how can you get confidence if you're Brad Knighton and you make a couple starts, and then on a hair trigger, you're replaced for Cropper, and Cropper hasn't been very good. Cropper didn't even make a save last week in Columbus. What does that say for the mentality and the morale of your team? What have you done to their confidence by doing something like that? So these are things that experienced managers get. They get the psychology of dealing with young players. New England is a very young team. You bring up Fagundes, who's just 24 years old. You bring up Turner, who's 23 years old. Very, very young team. And he might not have necessarily mastered the psychology part of what he has to do to be a very good manager.
Then I have two thoughts here. One about you being king for a day, and then one about Atlanta United heading up there. And I guess what I'll do is I'll ask you the quicker version, which would be the king for a day one, which would, I guess would be the Revs question. Uh-huh. You mentioned where Friedel's having problems connecting with the team. The team seems to still have problems connecting with the market. You're king for a day. How do you fix what's wrong with all of those empty seats and lower level tarps with what's going on up there?
Well, you play in a stadium that's way too big and way too far away from mass transit and way too far away from your fans. So you've either got to build a soccer-specific stadium in Providence or a soccer-specific stadium in Boston. It's the same issue that we've talked about all week with what Chicago Fire might be doing by going back into town and going to Soldier Field. It's not realistic, and it's no slight on the Revolution or their fans to say it's not realistic that you're going to be able to draw 40 to 50,000 people consistently to Gillette Stadium. It's very difficult to get there. I mean, Jason and I are renting a car to get there because there's not a train that's close to there. There's not a bus that really helps. It's a very expensive Uber ride from downtown Boston and downtown Providence. So you've got to find a way to get the product closer to your fans. We were talking about it around the office here at 92.9 The Game this week, and I think a lot of people just made the assumption that, well, Kraft's got to move it into Boston. Why not move it into into Providence? Okay, they had an attempt to get a Summer Olympics in Boston, and the taxpayers of Massachusetts wouldn't approve a referendum to publicly finance stadiums. You could go into Providence and be the big ticket in town, be a major league sports team in a city that doesn't currently have one, where you're still close enough to pull from the Boston area, from the really heavily populated parts of Massachusetts. You're close enough to Hartford where you can pull from Connecticut, but you can be the team. Just as the Hartford Whalers were the team in Connecticut, you can be the team in Rhode Island and find a way to build a soccer-specific stadium there. I don't know where he built the new training ground. I don't know if it's in Foxborough or if it's closer to Boston or what. But if the training ground is close to Foxborough, Providence is only 45 minutes away from there. So it's not like you're feeling like you're playing road games when you're at home. That to me would be the starting point. But I also understand how Robert Kraft looks at this, where kind of like what the Braves did, he built a mixed-use development outside his stadium. He wants to keep people going through there, which means he needs to have events in his stadium. And playing MLS matches there gives him 17 additional events on top of the Patriots and concerts and everything else that he can have at Gillette Stadium. So it's one thing for me to be king for the day and dictate, okay, go ahead and move to Providence. It's another thing to try to convince Robert Kraft to do that because he has business reasons for wanting to have that team in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I mean, it works for the Patriots, obviously, but does it work for the Revolution? Honestly, I think it can if they're a more compelling team, and they haven't been that for quite a while. How far away do you think they are on the field?
And one additional point to that, prior to last December, who had the attendance record for an MLS Cup final?
Yeah, it was New England when they hosted in 2002 when they were a very strong team. They drew well when they were on their MLS Cup runs right after that with Parkhurst, with Lorenowitz, with Twellman, with Steve Ralston. They've drawn well when the product has been good. Now, have they filled the place on a regular basis? No, they haven't.
No, but there is proof that they can do it, is the point that I think we're both trying to make. How close are they to being consistently good? I think pretty close. I mean, if you look at their key guys, Carlos Gil is only 26. Zaibo is only 25. You mentioned Fagundes. He's only 24. Turner, if he ends up being their keeper in the future, is 23. If it's Cropper, he's 26. So your young core, you have a lot of real potential and promise. Not to mention, then you have a lot of players coming out as homegrowns that have actually gotten match time this year. Their first-round draft pick, this DeJuan Jones guy, has already played in 3 matches for them. He's only 21. Justin Renix is only 20. Caicedo is a guy that has been very key for them, and he's 22. So, I mean, they've got good young players. They aren't killing themselves with designated players right now. In fact, I think Kiel is their only DP, I think. I'm looking at my chart right now. I could be wrong on that. So it's not like they're crushed from a salary standpoint right now. So I look at them. They're young. They need seasoning. But I also look at them as a team that wasn't out of it for the playoffs until very late last year, if I recall correctly. They didn't win a lot of matches at the end, but they were saving a lot of draws, and they were becoming very, very tricky and challenging to play. Atlanta United even kind of had a little bit of a test from them last October when they were starting to really figure things out. So they're close. I don't know if it's the manager. I don't know if they're 1 player away or 2 players away. But I look at New England, and I feel a lot more optimistic about where they're going as opposed to, say, Colorado or Vancouver, or maybe even, I don't know, Chicago to an extent. I think the ingredients are there for New England to sustain this for a while, but they're just one piece away, whether it be a manager or a player.
And I know you don't make a prediction, but what's something that you're looking for here, either from a New England perspective or an Atlanta perspective, that will have a huge impact on the match?
Well, I really hope we see Atlanta United come out, look fresh and speedy, because there's no excuse not to. You have not played in 2 weeks. You haven't had any players out on international duty for 2 weeks. You're mainly healthy right now other than left back. And I think we'll see Breck Shea to start. We've seen Shea with the fresh legs be very, very effective in 2 such situations this year. So I want to see Atlanta United play with a little bit of pace and tempo, and hopefully that'll open some things up in the final third. There's no excuse, really. I mean, the conditions will be fine. It'll be in the low 60s, upper 50s. It's not going to rain. You're playing on turf.
Hallelujah.
I mean, all of the excuses are really gone now. Now, as I said on Soccer Down here this week, I'm looking at this as a 3-match stretch: New England, Dallas, Colorado. I'm not going to make any judgments on where the season is going based solely on what we see on Saturday, but they need to come out of here with something positive. A loss is that I would be hitting the panic button pretty big time if they were to take a loss on Saturday, regardless of how it happened. If they draw but they score 2 or 3 goals, I could accept that. But this is a match you need to win. And I fully think that if Atlanta United comes out and does what they've been doing the last couple league matches, where it's 4 in the back, they're creating chances, they're limiting opponents in possession, they're limiting opponents' chances, you could come out of here with a multi-goal victory pretty easily. You got to stay healthy and execute between now and the full-time whistle on Saturday. But I feel pretty good going into this match. If they can't put it together this week, then I will have major, major concerns going forward.
It's a big game. I think it's the biggest match that Atlanta United's had in April in their short history. How can everybody listen to us?
So we'll be on 7 o'clock for the Five Stripes Countdown on 92.9 The Game, 7:30 the kickoff. We'll also be on radio.com, the Atlanta United app, and all of that. So join us for that. Now, I agree with your statement about this being an important April match. That New York City match last April had a different kind of feel because those were 2 heavyweights playing a really high-quality match, and there was a lot of hype behind that. This feels different, where the season's not on the brink, but you're starting to really feel uneasy. And that's why, Atlanta United didn't need to get a result against New York City last year to affect anything as far as where they were in the standings. This one feels a lot different. You have 2 matches in hand on pretty much everyone. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, a lot of importance about Saturday night. I will see you at the airport first thing in the morning, Mike.
Yeah, hopefully I won't oversleep. And you do have a seat assignment, right?
Yes. I
Good.
Oh, hallelujah.
I'm not going to have to drive from who knows where.
All right, guys. See you later.
Be
Thanks,
good.
Mike. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Getting ready for a busy weekend around the area. Not just Major League Soccer and NWSL, but lots of USL Championship and USL League One. The most important one, at least in our neck of the woods, is one that John will be on the call for with our buddy Jarrett Smith. Atlanta United 2 hosting North Carolina FC. What are you expecting, John?
Let's see. Cliff's Notes version. I want to see how rotated the squad is from the match against Memphis 901 midweek and how they respond on short rest for North Carolina after that match against Lou City, where they thumped them in the opening week of the USL Championship season. Scoring has been fairly consistent, 1-1-1 since, and that's why they're where they are in the table right now. So where's the offense? You're going to have to do it without Austin Deleuze. And how does Dave Sarakin respond to that? And with the twos, it's like, what do you look like? And are you is Stephen Glass going to continue to have the young legs go on quick turn, or is the lineup going to be a little different? So that's what how different is the lineup going to be, I think, is probably the question for the twos going up against Dave Sarakin and North Carolina FC.
7:30 kick on ESPN Plus from Fifth Third Bank Stadium. You can make it out to Kennesaw for that. You can watch the match in front of you, and you can listen on 929thegame.com or radio.com or the Atlanta United app if you want to listen to Mike and I from New England. Or
see, there you go.
You can split the difference at home and have two screens going and have Atlanta United on one, Atlanta United 2 on the other. The rest of USL Championship, Tampa Bay hosting Louisville City. Lou City's just been kind of just there. They don't look like defending back-to-back champs. Will they start to look like it against Tampa Bay, who is in second in the Eastern Conference, pushing St. Louis? Charlotte hosting New York Red Bulls, too. But the big one is the Tennessee Derby. Memphis heading over to Nashville for the first time. That's going to be a fun one, and Memphis is talking about taking hundreds of fans over to First Tennessee Park in Nashville for it. That will be one you'll definitely want to check in and see the highlights from and see what the vibe and the atmosphere is like in the stands. I think that's going to be a really interesting match. Memphis has to pick it up after, I think, a frustrating night for them where they had a number of chances, not a ton of great chances, but a number of chances, and just got frustrated against Atlanta United 2 on Wednesday night. USL League One, there's a couple games to keep in mind there as well. Saturday night, Chattanooga Red Wolves head over to Greenville to face the Triumph. Greenville will be missing a couple of players due to red card suspension from Week 1. Chattanooga coming off of a win over Forward Madison. See if Zayed and Beatty can keep that going for Chattanooga. And then Sunday, South Georgia Tormenta head south to Orlando to face OCB on ESPN+. Tormenta undefeated through 3. They've played more matches than anybody in USL League One. They have more points than anybody with 7. You think they stay unbeaten in Orlando Sunday night?
I think it's at the very least a draw. Connor Antley, Player of the Week. And we've seen with Tormenta how they've been building things. And these are the two approaches that we're looking at when it comes to League One, is building something from scratch, building something with background from Orlando City. So it's going to be another one of those clash of constructions. I think that Tormenta get out of it with at least 1 point.
All of your USL Championship, all of your USL League One on ESPN+. They're not paying us. They should. It's a no-brainer. Get it done. Watch all of this because all the stuff's going to be good. All these matches are going to be good this weekend, so check them out along with your MLS out-of-market coverage as well. We're going to take a break. We'll get Doug Robertson on the line from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, get his thoughts ahead of Atlanta United and New England. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus, and Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 12th. Big game this weekend, Atlanta and New England. Doug Robertson from the AJC joins us. Doug, is this the biggest early season match Atlanta United's had?
Yeah, definitely. That they're last in the East. They have the fewest shots on goal of any team in the league. They look decent for 30 minutes on offense against Columbus, but the defense just fell apart at two crucial moments. They need a game where they put everything together just for a little boost of confidence, and then they can start, with the next game as they try to climb the table and get comfortably into one of those 7 spots for the playoffs before the summertime gets here.
Then who do you think, Doug, needs to be the most comfortable coming out of this match going forward? Who do you think has to, for their own development approach, self-awareness, who do you think needs to have the game of this season for themselves in Foxborough?
Probably Pity Martinez. He's gotten, I think, the break we all think he needed, physical and mental break. He got married, which he posted on social media. He got to rest a little bit. I'm assuming, think about his role on Atlanta United and how he's supposed to play within the team. So he doesn't need to score. He doesn't need to have assists, but he just needs to, in my opinion, look a little bit more like he's on the same page as everyone else. And I'm not sure that's been the case all of the games. In some parts of some of the games it has, but not probably like everyone assumed before the season started.
So looking at the other side, looking at New England, what have you made of all of the talk around this team this year? It seemed very strange, even back to the preseason with Diego Fagundes talking about wanting out. It felt like the Lee Wynn situation from last year. Fagundes is still there. He started a couple times. You saw 6 changes after the loss to Cincinnati, and the Revs have looked better in the last 2, splitting them 1-1.
I don't know if it's a team that knows what it's doing. Friedel is last year was his first year as a manager of any team anywhere. So I think he's learning on the job as much as anything. And I'm not sure that he's based upon the reputation New England has, its ownership and everything. I don't know if he's getting the leadership and mentorship that maybe he needs to learn how to become a better manager and more efficient manager. They've signed several players, none of whom are really making any kind of an impact. Several international players that several of whom aren't making any kind of impact. They started pressing a lot last year, but they didn't have the depth, and it killed them. They won like 3 of their final 18 games because they just didn't have enough bodies. So it seems like an odd way to start a season. And this year they're pressing more again. They think they have the bodies, but they've given up a ton of goals. They're not scoring. If Atlanta United has the fewest shots on goal, New England is tied for second fewest shots on goal. They're just don't like a team that has a clear understanding of what it is they're supposed to do.
And then when you have Friedel and how he's just dressing down his team the way that he has at points this season, I mean, a team can take it one of two ways when you have your leader doing this. You can either sit there and just not pay attention to what he's saying and say, wave your hand like your grandfather did and sit there and go, oh, you're crazy. Or you can listen to what he's saying and take it to heart. Is New England at I don't want to use the word crossroads to sit there and be cliched about it, but are they at a vital point in their season because of how Friedel is addressing his team as to where this team could go? I mean, could the season go south if this continues, or do you think that they respond to this kind of talk?
Well, they responded one game, and then they lose the next game. I don't think Friedel is going to last the season. They didn't end well last year. I don't see them ending well this year. There's this bizarre talk of this DP that's been on their radar for 2 years that they still haven't.
He's coming. He's coming.
Yeah, and Miami's going to have a team in MLS too. I've heard that. They both seem like pipe dreams at this point. I mean, name a leader on their team. Name someone that you think is going to step up and rally the players to follow Friedel's instructions and push them to try to give Friedel what he wants.
It's quiet, guys. I think it's Andrew Farrell and it's Caldwell. Two guys who are grinders, hard workers. That's what Friedel talks about a lot. It's a guy like Brandon Bye, who was a bit of a project coming out of college, second year in the league. He outworks everybody. That's what Friedel's prioritizing. But is that going to win you games in this league? I don't know.
If you're an international player and one of those three guys stands up and starts trying to tell you we need to do what the manager says, are you going to listen to any of them? Do they have any? Do they have any bona fides with you?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, Farrell actually does with his longevity in the league. He would be one who's not quite at the level of what we saw here with like a Parkhurst and a Lorenowitz, being leaders in a team with a lot of international players, but he would be the closest thing you have. But the problem, to me, it's even bigger than that. I think you're right, and you say that they don't know who or what they want to be, because all we know right now about the way New England plays is they're going to run a lot when they're doing it right, when Friedel's not throwing people under the bus. They're going to run hard. They're going to chase everything down. They're going to work hard. How are they going to play? I mean, it's a press. It's a frantic press. They're just throwing bodies at the ball. It's not organized. That doesn't take you very far. And I think there's a pretty low ceiling on how effective that can be over time.
They sound a little bit like the U.S. men's national team. They're going to run hard. They're going to chase the ball. But you don't really know what exactly it is they're going to do once they get the ball.
And that was the difference, though, between like a Bob Bradley U.S. men's national team and Brad Friedel with the Revolution. Was it like super detailed tactically? No, it wasn't. There was a lot of just let's outwork them because you didn't have as much talent. But there were certain things that were organized. I think with New England, it's the hard work to an extreme level of positions don't really matter when they're pressing. It's just you're near the ball, go chase it, period, and push them against the line. That's the one tactical thing that is very clear about New England is they want to push the ball out wide up against the touchline, or they want to push you back up against your end line. That's about it. You break through that, you're going to have chances.
Right. Yeah. Now they've got lots of issues, but Atlanta United still has lots of issues too.
They do, and I think a couple things that were said yesterday jumped out to me. This is going to be a physical game. I think all the players are ready for that. But Leandro Gonzalez-Perez mentioning that, he likes playing against teams like this because it does create more space. That's where that hard work can kind of get you caught. If you're just chasing, if Atlanta gets through that first line, which they need to show that they can do, there should be spaces to attack in behind.
That is true. They just haven't shown that they can do that this year. They showed it a little bit against Columbus.
Because Columbus came out to play a little more, which helps. I mean, and that's something I think New England's not going to, and it's one thing we do know about this, is New England's not going to come out and say, we're going to put 8 guys behind the ball and sit and defend and make you break us down. That's just not in their DNA. And that's the type of teams Atlanta's played a lot this season.
That's true.
So hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, what do you define success as outside of a win, which we all know you need 3 points here? What else are you looking for this to be a success for Atlanta United Saturday night?
Just kind of the same things I think we talked about before the Columbus game. Just some goal scoring chances. Put some shots on goal. And in that regard, I thought Atlanta United did do well on offense against Columbus. They had 3 good chances in 30 minutes. And Zach Steffen made some fantastic saves to keep them off the board. They had the Gressel header, the Barco shot, the Villalba shot, another good one in the second half. So if they can just build off of that and keep that going, I think that's a positive sign. I think they're going to come out in a 4-3-3, which is a formation that they're obviously comfortable with because it's one they played a lot the previous 2 seasons, and I keep writing about it and I keep harping on it because I'm still just a little baffled as to the 3-4-3. I think you're not going to see that anymore, at least for a while. And it's when you're an athlete and you're put back into something that you had success with, you're automatically going to be more confident. And I think we saw that against Columbus, and I think we're going to see that against New England too. And confidence can help you overcome a lot of other weaknesses.
All right. Let's
one of our listeners.
Oh, you got one more, John? Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, going to what one of our listeners asked us this morning, the worst performance you could see out of Atlanta United that would still leave you optimistic. What is that in your mind?
A loss, but a loss only because the other team's goalkeeper stood on his head, or the referee, as what happened last year, makes a couple of bad decisions, which cost Atlanta United a good result. I guess that would be the answer. Y'all remember last year's game? That was just ridiculously poor refereeing in that game. Mikey Ambrose got bundled over on a clear goal-scoring opportunity and no penalty, no card. And then Kevin Kratz gets called for a penalty on the other end for the tying goal. A really soft penalty.
Yeah, we'll see how Alex Chilowitz in his 6th Major League Soccer game in the middle, 3rd this season. He had 1 last year. He had a couple in 2017. We'll see how he handles it because it's going to be a physical one. There's going to be the potential for this to get chippy. Joe Patrick with probably the most important question. Did you find a place to eat in Boston?
Oh, yeah. We got lots of good suggestions.
Okay.
Of places to eat in Boston.
Yeah, we'll be eating in Foxborough, so probably not as high of a quality.
Oh, geez. Yeah, have fun at that Carl's Jr. or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, I think we're going to be at the Toby Keith joint either before or afterwards because there's not a lot of options there. Yeah.
Oh, I am so sorry, both for the food and the music.
Yeah, it happens. Josh Bailey will have the Bailey Daily poll up in just a bit, presented by our buddy Steve Apolinski and Apolinski and Associates. This is where we give you our predictions. It's where you can get involved in your predictions as well in the Bailey Cup. It's been pretty rough for all of us so far this season. Let's see if we can get on the right track. He's getting lucky so far because he's the most negative one of the bunch. Let's see if we can get on track here. John, kick us off.
I'll go 2-1 Atlanta United. I'll go with Joseph, and I'll go with Barco. And I'll say 2-0. Revs make it dicey at the end with 1 from Carlos Heel. 2-1, they hang on.
So you're back to your 2-1 predictions.
Hey, I'm 5 points behind you in the Listener's Shield. I have to do something.
The Listener Shield standings, Doug is on top with 6 points. Josh is next with 3. I've got 2. Jarrett and John each have 1. Doug, what are you thinking about this one? This is a weird one to call.
Yeah, I am going to go 2-0 Atlanta United. I don't see New England really being able to threaten Atlanta United unless there's giant mental breakdowns like at Columbus. But you would like to think Atlanta United has worked on those and straightened those out. So I think 2-0 from Atlanta United. Probably, let's go 10 shots, 5 on goal.
Ooh, that would be good. I'd be happy with that.
All right.
Man, I keep going around and around on this one. I think New England gets something. I think they do find a goal just because of Atlanta's going to try to build out of the back. It's how they unbalance opponents, and New England is, very committed to throwing everybody forward to chase that down. So a mistake will be made, and they'll get punished. Hopefully that happens after a couple of goals for Atlanta. I'm going to go 3-1 Atlanta. I think they get one early, settle in, they get a second, New England finds one, and Atlanta gets one to put it away. They need it. This is a game where you have a couple at home following it, and I think you really do need to change the momentum a bit. It's the most important game Atlanta United's played in the first half of the season, I think, in their existence. Doug, what do you have coming up at the AJC the rest of the day and this weekend?
I'm working on a story now about the team's confidence based on the performance against Columbus and a meeting that the players and coaches had after the Columbus game. Don't read too much into the meeting. It's not like a fire and brimstone type thing. It was just let's all regroup and reboot and do a hard reset and realize what we're playing for now. I think there was a little bit of a Champions League hangover. And I kind of did my predicted 11 earlier this week, so I don't think I'm going to redo that. That got varying degrees of opinion on that. That was interesting. And so that's what I'm going to have before the game, and then after the game we'll have a game story as soon as the final whistle blows, and I'll update that with quotes, and then I'll do a podcast unless Jason has to go meet Toby Keith or Waylon Jennings or whoever the heck got to meet for dinner.
Hey, I would totally go meet Waylon Jennings, though. No offense.
He's a sidebar. Yeah, I'll be Waylon Jennings. Toby Keith, I could give two cruds about. And then
old school Waylon Jennings,
etc. I'd rather meet Shooter Jennings and Toby Keith.
I would take Shooter Jennings as well. Should be good tomorrow. I will not be trying to catch a plane or frozen from being outside in Columbus. That was the worst weather that I've been outside for that long of a period of time in. Just the temperature drop was such an underrated part of that match in Columbus. The weather, the field conditions, obviously, but temperature dropped a good 20-25 degrees from the time we got there to the time we left. It was just insane.
It was nuts, and it should have been suspended. But the referee, I don't think, understood the rules about suspending a game, and just didn't have the guts to do it.
Yeah, it should have been stopped at halftime, in my opinion. It should have, honestly, and this is what
31.
Mike and I kind of hit on. Well, you could have got to halftime, but to go back even further, you knew where the weather was going. There really wasn't much of a question when you looked at the forecast. I think it should have been held off till a late night start, and you could have just played 90 minutes from there and actually had time to deal with the field and not have it puddle up the way that it did. But anyway, it did not cost Atlanta the result. I feel like we have to qualify every time we talk about conditions. It did affect their ability to come back after early mistakes, and that's why those early mistakes were even more glaring.
It was basically a 35-minute game. It was a 35-minute game.
Yeah, I could even stretch it just slightly to 40. I mean, Atlanta came out of the break and had chances. That was where you had the best chance of the night from Atlanta with Barco off the hop. Best save that I've seen Stefan make in that one. I mean, I don't know how he gets down to it and reads it off the hop and is prepared for it. But then Columbus goes down and scores the other way, and it's done. Doug, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it. And we will see you, or I will see you at Gillette Stadium tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Y'all take care.
Be good. Be
final
safe.
Break right here. If you have any final thoughts, questions, tweets, get them off right now at Twitter at @SoccerDownHere. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Apple Linsky & Associates, Personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment, Soccer Down here as we wrap up another week. So much going on this weekend. What are the games you're going to try to keep an eye on outside of the twos tomorrow night, John?
Outside of the twos, obviously yours, although it'll be slightly
but it's kind
difficult.
of the same time, so you know.
Yeah. And for me, because Jarrett and I are going to be doing that, up at Fifth Third, it's looking at the games in the championship and trying to see what else is going on with those. Obviously, the Tennessee Derby, although for me the default would be to say the Volunteer Derby, but the Tennessee Derby I want to see, catch the last handful of minutes of that.
Be angry about that.
Yeah, I know.
Or
then
the Tigers fans might be angry about that.
Yeah, and then obviously and Tennessee Tech and everybody else. For me, what's going on in League One, I want to see if Tormenta is going to stay hot in Orlando. And with LAFC, I want to see what if they continue with their run of absolute incredible offense so far this season. So the laptop will be fired up in the S Suite at Fifth Third, while Jarrett and I are calling ATL UTD2 and North Carolina FC. That one's going to be a fun one. And so it's a head on a swivel weekend. And obviously with what's going on with the NWSL, I want to look at what's going on with them tomorrow night with Courage and Chicago. So if you're looking for a Friday focus, it would be that. Saturday, anything in and above what's going on, probably Tennessee Derby. And then Sunday, it would be Tormenta and OCB.
Yeah, for me, it'll be getting to Gillette and firing up Seattle and Toronto and then Minnesota. I want to see what Allianz Field looks like. I want to see all the ceremonies around that. And then afterwards, maybe at the Toby Keith restaurant, might try to fire up one of the LA matches on the laptop.
Do they serve drinks in red Solo cups?
I mean, they should. I mean, if you're going to go gimmick, you have to go all the way with the gimmick. So, yes, you should not have glassware. You should have red Solo cups.
Just asking.
No, you should. I mean, don't go halfway. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah. Go full on Toby Keith.
Yeah.
Daniel Price has a bold prediction. He says it's going to be Rev Wedding 2, the Electric Boogaloo, 7-0. And then he also said, don't forget some love for the Academy team. Saw him in the airport on their way to Dallas. # 5 Stripe Friday.
Yeah, Generation Adidas Cup out in Frisco this weekend. Atlanta United's U17s are in the Premier Division of the Generation Adidas Cup, and I'm pulling up the schedule now. You have the Champions Division of the U17s. You also have a U15 division. Atlanta United's not part of that. Atlanta kicks it off tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock Eastern time, against Ulsan. That's the first game. They play Orlando on Sunday. They play Houston later in the day on Sunday. A lot of matches for the U17s, and this is it could have a little bit of an effect. We haven't really seen any of the U17s come up to the twos. I can't think of anybody that would be age eligible for the 17 still. Campbell and Conway are past it. Diego Lopez, maybe, but we haven't seen him with the twos yet. He's been playing academy, stuff this season, so shouldn't have a huge impact. It's not the 19s going, and I know there were a few questions about that. So I'm curious on the twos side, what the lineup looks like. I'll be looking for that an hour before kick. See if there's any new faces from the academy that make their way in. We'll see if some of the guys who had strong performances Wednesday, a Kevin Barajas, a Will Vent, a Wesley Dekas, if they get another run out here and if they can build on that strong performance. Because it's one thing to go on the road and get 3 points. It's another to start putting wins together, and that's what Stephen Glass is looking for. Sunday, definitely be watching Tormenta. I'll be checking the NWSL out on Sunday as well. I'll be checking out all the highlights. I will want to see how the Courage look in their opener and see if they can repeat what they did. Later today, we'll have a Women's Soccer Weekly NWSL preview with Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer, one of the leading voices out there on women's soccer in the United States. And we'll have all of your coverage that we usually do on a weekend. John will be tweeting from Fifth Third Bank Stadium. I'll be tweeting from Gillette Stadium. ESPN Plus for the twos, 7:30 kickoff. 7:30 kickoff at Gillette as well. You can listen starting at 7 on 92.9, 929thegame.com, on radio.com, on the Atlanta United app. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for all of the tweets, all of the interaction this week. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thanks for checking out all of the additional content as well that's out there on the Soccer Down Here app. You've got Roots Up 1v1s. You've got all the USL Championship, USL League 1 in 10. You'll have a Charleston Battery Weekly later today as well. All of your SDH content is there on the app if you don't have it downloaded already on iOS and on Android. Thanks, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.